We'll start off with item 1, which is apologies for absence. No apologies. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? No. Okay. And then we turn to minutes of the previous meeting. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. And we'll start off the first substantive item, Merton Civic Pride Fund. Councillor Stringer.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm very happy to produce the paper before we recommend that we take explanations 1 and 2 about the distribution of the supporting the voluntary community sector aspect of the Merton Civic Pride Fund. So this report outlines the funding awards of nearly £5 million to 24 excellent voluntary and community sector projects supporting residents in Merton at a time when this support is really desperately needed given the wider economic and social context. It's the culmination of months and months and months of hard work by many council officers and partner organisations and the charities who have done. So particularly like to thank Amanda Robertson and the bank for all of their work on this. Colleagues will remember that back in September we agreed that all funding that goes to the voluntary sector in our area should come under the overarching Civic Pride umbrella, and we launched applications for them supporting the voluntary sector fund, aiming to invest in and support our local voluntary sector community infrastructure, nurture a strong sense of community, reducing inequalities, and bringing together preventative services that provide prevention advice and support. So we want partnership and collaboration to be at the heart of everything we do, and we'll be discussing this further at item 6, and this fund really lives up to that. The team works closely with the voluntary and community sector before opening the fund to develop the prospectus, which was the basis of this support. The grant allocation of 4.9 million represents a positive and really significant increase, 35% more funding than the equivalent parts of the previous programme. Despite this, the funding was really oversubscribed in some areas and difficult decisions had to be made. And I think this really shows the strength of our sector that we have here in Merton. I'm really glad to say that we've been able to, with some of the partners, negotiate and work with them, particularly with some of the larger organisations, have agreed to withdraw applications, and we're going to encourage them and work with them to try and find funding for other sources for their high touring projects. I'd like to really thank them for their flexibility. By doing this, we've opened up funding to small groups and to new groups that we haven't funded before who scored really highly in their assessment. The assessment was undertaken by a funding panel made up from officers from across the council, including the equality lead and from the local health service. The paper goes into lots of detail, but I'll just give you some of the headline information about what we're funding. So it's 18 organisations, 3 of which hadn't been funded before. This provides both stability within the sector, but shows that we're also exploring opportunities to fund new projects. 28% of the total funding available is going to smaller groups of organisations. Over £1 million is going to support older people in our communities, and over £500,000 to organisations supporting those with disabilities and impairments. Just over £200,000 go to Bain Voice, which is a significant increase in the amount they received previously. And we've also increased the amount going to the Common Side Development Trust and the Polish Family Association, recognising the really important work they've done both during COVID, more recently on the cost of living crisis. And we've talked many times here about the work over the summer in Galpin that Common Side is at the heart of as well. If you allow me, Chair, I'll just finally quickly list the full range of organisations being funded. So Age UK Merton, Polish Family Association, Attic Theatre Company, Bain Voice, Citizens Advice Merton Lambert, Common Side that mentioned, Francis and Helier, Merton Centre for Independent Living, Merton Community Transport, Merton Connected, Merton Mencap, Merton Vision, North East Mitcham Community Association, the Power Centre Church in Mitcham, the South West London Law Centres and Springfield Advice Law Centre, the Merton and Malden Guild of Social Service and Wimbledon Guild. So I would reiterate that beyond these are many excellent organisations that we will continue to work with, for example, through cost of living work. And we've also kept back £50,000 to support and develop small volunteer community-led organisations, including diversity-led groups, and that will be administered by Merton. So thank you again to all the applicants and everyone involved in testing these applications.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stringer. Does Ms. Hickson or Mr. Terry have anything to add? Perfect. Colleagues, are there any questions or comments? Councillor Irons.
I think you read through the paper, you understand the difficulty of putting one disabled group against another, and it's always going to be difficult. But I feel that this is such a positive process and such a positive scheme. It's great to see organisations like Bain Voice receive an increase in funding and to be recognised for their work and to see things like Common Side again recognised for the work they do for our community. So this is really positive and an enviable task, but great to see small organisations there be recognised and offer.
Councillor Judge.
I was going to say, it seems to have been a very rigorous and successful process. So congratulations to all those who took part, those who were successful in their bids, and to the cabinet members.
Thank you. And there's no further indications. So as cabinet, we're asked to agree recommendations 1 and 2. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. So moving to item 5, cost of living update. Councillor Christie.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As you know, and colleagues will remember, in September, Cabinet approved the allocation of the first half of our specially created £2 million cost of living emergency fund to help residents during this difficult winter. The paper before us tonight gives an update on how the first tranche of money from the cost of living emergency fund, as well as the latest round of money from the household support fund, has been used to provide that help. As outlined in the paper, we provided more than 10,000 low-paid residents with a £60 voucher just before Christmas. We allocated £100,000 to go towards supporting the voluntary sector. We used £200,000 to expand the Citizens Advice Bureau's debt advice service locally. And we've partnered with a specialist organisation to help residents reduce their energy bills in their homes, as well as funding free school meal vouchers for a further period of 6 months, amongst many other things. I'm very proud of all this work. And I'm grateful to the team of officers for facilitating this level of support to our residents. What the paper makes clear is that whilst the government continues to crash the economy, Merton's Labour Council is doing everything we can to help local residents get through these difficult months. And what's more, at our March Cabinet meeting, we'll be considering proposals to use the second tranche of our cost of living emergency fund to continue helping local residents as we head into the spring. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Christie. Ms Hickson, do you have anything to do? No? Okay, thank you. Cabinet colleagues, any contribution? Councillor Fraser.
Thanks, Chair. I'd just like to say to sorry, Councillor Christie and all the people you work with, for your excellent work, especially at this time when everybody is having such a hard time. So well done and keep up the good.
Councillor Alan Brittis.
Yes, can I thank Councillor Christie and officers for the choreography of this cost of living support for our residents, starting with the emergency support fund, moving to the cost of living action plan, with the first tranche of £1 million, followed by another tranche of £1 million. With real live events in all our libraries, engaging with 1,200 people, particularly welcome support to those who support our residents. We need to support those who support our residents, our citizen advice bureaus, our law centres. That's really crucial because they can then get on to more people. And also, finally, energy bills are crucial, and the council's it's part in that. And that £60 post office voucher going to people in receipt of council tax has been very, very much welcome, and many residents thank us for that. So well done on the choreography of support ongoing, with announcements made at vital times, so that residents feel they're supported throughout, not just in one fell swoop.
Thank you very much. I think there's no further indications. Cabinet, we're being asked to agree recommendations A, B, C, and D. Are they agreed? Agreed. Item 6, working better with communities. Councillor Tree.
So this item about something that's really, again, really important for us. It's my role in developing Civic Pride, but making sure that every service across the council works well with our communities and really embedded. So I'd like to start by thanking a large number of staff involved in this work. Again, it's very kind of cross organisation piece of work. Jamie Sherry and Amanda Roberts are here with us tonight if you have more details. But also many voluntary and community sector partners contributed, so I'd like to formally thank them for their time. The report before you sets out the approach to developing and implementing the new Working Better with Communities framework. The idea of this framework and approach will be grow within all of Merton Council service planning. We aim to build on the learning that we've had from the pandemic of how we work differently with partners during that critical time, and try to transform in a more permanent way how the council works with communities. The framework provides a toolkit for services to use to work collaboratively with communities. It was co-designed with local partners, led by an external organisation called Collaborate CIC. So the paper outlines the next steps for embedding the framework and the approach in all of our planning, accompanied by detailed toolkit and roadmap. And the engagement findings from the Merton work last year emphasise the need for real community-led recovery. And this aligns with our priorities around nurturing civic pride and building a better Merton together. Separately, there is also work underway on a more resident-facing approach to community engagement, which will be being discussed with community forums and coming to cabinet in a future meeting. But thank you again for everyone's work on this, and the cabinet is requested to formally adopt the working better with communities.
Thank you, Councillor Stringer. Ms. McSherry, do you have anything to add? Thank you very much. Cabinet colleagues, any contributions? No, okay, we're being asked to agree recommendations A and B. They agree?
Agree.
Okay, moving to Merton Adult Learning Strategy 2023 to 2026. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Chair. I'd first of all like to thank officers involved in producing this strategy. The strategy has been for adult learning has been updated to link with Merton's priorities of civic pride, building a sustainable future, and building a borough sport. And there are priorities of all schools achieving good and outstanding, developing the green skills courses, and increase the number of residents from low paid income to better paid jobs. That underpins it. Adult learning is committed to providing high quality learning with very good provision to ensure that the east of the borough is well provided for. And I want to point out that the team worked very hard to ensure that all the courses are funded from the commissioning process, so there's no cost to Merton. They get grants, particularly from the Greater London Authority, elsewhere, that fund these courses, and 93% of the funding has been spent. And I think something like 1,836 learners attended 300 plus courses. I can't quite remember the figures, but it operates an excellent commissioning model that is doing very well for the residents of Merton, sometimes people outside Merton. They, with the current team, they've improved the standard of Merton adult learning, and in the last Ofsted in 2019, it gained 6 outstanding judgments. So all judgments, sorry, were good, nearly outstanding, but they were all good, and they're aiming for outstanding. They provide accredited and non-accredited courses using a wide variety of data to target needed services. The areas that I was particularly keen to develop are, of course, ensuring everyone in the authority can get English and Maths at level 2, and they provide free support courses to allow them to go and sit those examinations. So those lacking in confidence, it always seems to be Maths, have that support before they take the actual exams. And I have to say, I'm very proud of all the work that goes on to support Merton residents and sometimes outsiders to access education from the age of 19 to whatever age they wish to carry on. I think it's a huge credit to Merton. They're doing this. The door is never closed for Merton people to be educated. And I think it's a huge thanks to Anthony Hopkins and his team for everything they've done and how they've moved the adult learning service on. And I recommend the strategy.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kenny. And Mr. Terry, do you have anything to? Okay. Cabinet members, any contribution? Councillor Cooper Marvia?
Yeah, can I just briefly say thanks to the cabinet member and the officers for their hard work on this strategy, and especially the fact that it's covering all aspects of the council's priority area. I think that's fantastic. The borough's Port Valley is one of those areas, and I'm very proud and happy that it's covering that as well. it couldn't have been easy because they work hard in getting the funding, applying for the funding to do this work. So I know residents would benefit quite a lot. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Hines.
I just wanted to, kind of, as I say, thank you again for the strategy, for the work of the team, especially for the focus on green skills and green jobs. If we're gonna live on our climate commitments, we're gonna need to train an army of people to go out there and retrofit and do the things that we need to be done. And you know, as it's been said in many other forums, there's a million jobs on the path to net zero, and I think that getting those skills in Borough and Merton is critical to our future. Thank you for focusing on that.
So there's no further indications. Cabinet, we're being asked to agree recommendation 1. Is that agreed?
Agree.
Okay, moving to business plan 2023 to 27. Councillor Christie.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So since the start of our administration last May, we've been clear about our intent to put the council's finances on a stable footing, both in the short term and in the medium term, and to help residents struggling with the cost of living emergency, as I alluded to earlier. Despite the continued economic chaos caused by the Conservative government and the rampant inflation having a devastating impact on our budget, I'm proud to bring forward a business plan update tonight, which includes not just a balanced budget for the next financial year, but also for the one after that. Because of the strong financial management of our administration and the hard work of the Director, Roger Kershaw, and his team, we've been able to bring forward an MTFS that puts our finances on a secure footing over the medium term as well as the short term. But the chronic underfunding of councils by the government has meant we've had to take yet more difficult decisions around savings. And so a further set of savings proposals are included in this update and will be considered by scrutiny next week. In their financial settlement released just before Christmas, the government also made clear that they expected councils to increase council tax by the maximum amount allowed, as well as taking the adult social care preset that they've provided. Whilst we have no real choice but to do what the government wants us to do, we remain determined to continue helping residents who are facing this cost of living emergency. And so I'm pleased to announce tonight that from April, the majority of Merton residents, all those within council tax bands A to D, will receive a special one-off cost of living discount on their council tax bills. This is on top of the extensive support we're providing to residents as part of our cost of living emergency measures and the more than 10,000 low-income households who are benefiting from our council tax support scheme. So, Chair, I'll wrap up there, but hope Cabinet colleagues will endorse the update as we continue to work towards finalising our cost of living budget for next financial year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Christie. Mr. Kershaw, do you have anything to?
Just a couple of points, Chair, thank you. As Councillor Christie said, the Merton is now in a fairly unique position from the medium-term strategy. We've also weaned the budget off a reliance on reserve, which is an excellent result, and obviously will enable Cabinet to determine what to do with those reserves that we previously built into the budget. I think what's critical in this now is that we continue to work on delivering the savings that you agree. It's important to do that, and that is what we're currently doing with the existing savings, and we will continue to do with these savings. And I guess just one other small point is that the money that we got from the service charge was immediately invested and is already a much needed revenue for council. Taking the question.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or statements from Cabinet colleagues? Councillor Judge.
I think we need to recognise this is an absolutely unprecedented financial position for this borough and must be highly unusual across the whole country to be able to have a balanced budget for the coming year, but the following year as well. And that is not with the active support of government, that is despite the instability that government funding has introduced. So, you know, I thank Roger for his fabulous advice and guidance, and Councillor Christie for his wonderful leadership on all our finances and on the business plan to come. And I think residents can be satisfied that Merton Council is in very good hands.
Thank you. Councillor Alan Brittis.
I know during these meetings, cabinet members aren't expected to just follow up and repeat exactly what the previous speaker has said. But as a previous leader, along with my colleague here, Councillor Andrew Judge, who was a leader before me here, I do support him wholeheartedly in the statement he's displayed. Unprecedented. In my 10 years and Andrew's 6 years as leader, 60 years of leadership, we did not manage through 2 years of a balanced budget. And the new leader here with the cabinet member, Christie, in support of Roger and a new leader. That's very, very good news for the residents of this borough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Councillor Cooper Marbian.
Yeah, I would like to also add my thanks to Roger, to the cabinet member and to the team for this fantastic news. Yeah, what can I say? Other than what they've just said, but yeah, this is unprecedented and I'm sure in the country as a whole, especially at this time where the cost of living crisis is at its height, to have not just 1 year, but 2 years. Balanced budget is fantastic, but then also is followed on by providing a 1% rebate as well to people in need. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much for that.
Brilliant, thank you. So colleagues, we're being asked to agree recommendations 1 to 5. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, so we'll move on to Councillor Christie's financial monitoring report of November 2022.
Yes, thank you again, Chair. This, as you say, is the financial monitoring report for November 22. Colleagues will note that the projected net adverse variance reported previously has been eliminated, and we now project a small net favourable variance of £183,000. Departments are continuing to report projected unfavourable variances, but these are being counterbalanced by favourable variances among corporate budget items. So we were also asked to approve a number of adjustments to our capital programme, primarily the reprofiling of projected spend, as well as a number of school maintenance work. That's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Kirschner, do you have anything to add?
Just very briefly, really, just to emphasise the fact that work is continuing among the management team to drive the directorate overspend. Albeit some of the pressures that they're facing on structural than behavioural, and we will continue to work towards driving those down in the various areas that are manifesting themselves. Albeit that in the medium-term financial strategy, some of that structural, some of the structural problems will be resolved through the growth. Take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from cabinet members? No. Okay, so we're being asked to agree recommendations A and B. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, moving to item 10, Microsoft Enterprise Agreement. Councillor Christie.
Thank you again, Chair. This is a straightforward report that outlines the competitive procurement process undertaken by the council in procuring our license to use Microsoft software on our computers and devices. As I say, it's a relatively straightforward procurement project. It was competitive, and I'm pleased to say that we've secured this essential software at a reasonable price as a result. There is also an exempt appendix to this report, which contains some commercially sensitive information that we can consider later in the closed session if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kirschner, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Are there any questions from colleagues? No. Okay, so we're being asked to agree recommendations A and B. Do they agree?
Agree.
Okay, moving to our final item, a social value. Councillor Christie.
Thank you for the final time tonight, Chair. So this paper is an update on the social value benefits received by the council since the introduction of a bespoke social value measurement charter in 2021. Colleagues will see that the equivalent financial value of such commitments secured from successful bidders during the first year of operation amounts to almost £1.5 million through benefits such as apprenticeships offered to local young people or community environmental improvement. Appendix C includes a confidential case study looking at just one such example. As part of this work, council officers who manage these contracts have undertaken a new approach and additional training to enable a more robust approach to securing the promised social value benefits during the life of the contracts they attach to. We're also recruiting new officers to specifically enhance our capability in this area. So all in all, this is a really positive development, and it builds on our work to develop civic pride in our borough by ensuring that companies that bid for work from the council are also encouraged to give something back to the local community. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Christie. Ms. Do you have anything to add? Okay, thank you very much. Cabinet colleagues, any questions or contributions? No. Okay, we're being asked to agree recommendations A and B. Are they agreed?
Agreed.
Fantastic. And as we've been able to discuss the items in public without referring to the exempt papers, we won't need item 12. I therefore